Hey everyone, welcome back to week 2 of the Rem and Gordo show for 2024. It's semi-final week, we can't wait to get into it.
I can't wait, Gordo. 2 mouth-watering semi-finals coming up this weekend, and I'm really keen to get into it.
Yeah, what a weekend of footy we saw. It started off on Thursday night, we had the Cats playing Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. What a cracker.
Oh, it was amazing. 84-point win to the Cats, Gordo, and we'll get into the reviews, and we'll start with that game. And what a moment it was for the Cats. It was probably the highlight of the season so far for the Cats. On the road, backs against the wall, and found a way to not even beat Port Adelaide, but absolutely tear them apart. It was started off with the Cameron goal. You knew Geelong were on when Chris Scott's happy in the coach's box and Cameron kicks an unbelievable goal from the boundary line. And then that started in the midfield as well. It was Dangerfield, it was Manor, it was Holmes, it was them getting the job done. Dangerfield's ability to do the contested handballing in particular was a standout for me. Just getting those score assists and handing it to his teammates. And it was also Manor. What a player to kick 3 goals and 23 possessions in a cutthroat qualifying final in your first one ever. Your first final, that was amazing from him. And then Holmes' ability to get on the outside and create that run and carry was amazing. It was really disappointing from Port, specifically in that midfield. They just let their guard down, no defensive pressure. And then the ability of Rosie, Horne-Francis and these types, Wines, to not have as much influence as any other match was really disappointing from them. I'll move on now to the forward line and the back line. Really poor from Port Adelaide not to get the job done in that forward line. Dropped some easy marks and didn't fight hard enough to get that ball to ground.
Yeah, you saw it early on. It was like Georgiades was not much impact at all.
No, he was missing targets a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Dixon just went missing when it really mattered. I just felt like, I know you'll touch on it soon, I just felt like they needed another key in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the smalls weren't good enough to get the job done. They just needed another key player.
You're right. And then we'll move into that back line. The ability of Bergman, I just wanted to touch on. He was outstanding for Port, I thought. In really tough times, he was solid down there, but he needed that support, and he didn't get it. Sir Thatcher and Aaliyah, unfortunately, played pretty under their performance level, I thought, for the year. Really need to respond this week as a back 6. I think it's really important against a Hawthorn liner, we'll touch on in later. They need to get the job done. Contested marking, get that ball to ground, the spoils. You need to be able to create a contest because Geelong ran riot with Stingle in particular and Manor in that forward line, and you need to be able to impact in finals, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic when you've got smalls like Stengel and Brad Close running around.
Yeah, Brad Close.
So hard to defend. And like you talked about Manor, he just brought the pressure from the very first bounce. Oh, it's awesome to see from a first-year player, and you knew that's what you were going to get from him.
Yeah. It was really unfortunate to see Butters subbed out for Port in the second half because he could have done some real damage in that second half to prevent that scoring from happening for Geelong. But that's the way it goes in finals. They're hard at it in those games. You need to be able to show your fight when someone goes down. And they didn't, did they, in that midfield?
Yeah, there was just absolutely no fight.
No.
Like, I was waiting for Port to respond, and you just got absolutely nothing from them.
Yeah, quite disappointing.
Yeah, that's it. Throughout the year, Butters would be the one to sort of lead the group and stand up. Horne-Francis looked like he wanted to turn up and play, like we asked of him earlier.
He did well in that first half, but I'd love to see a bit more from Rosie and Horne-Francis to lead that group in the second half, and they weren't able to. So hopefully you get a response from this week, but those Catters into the home prelim, MCG, wow.
Yeah, it was such a huge game for the Cats. Like, they avoid having to travel or anything like that.
Yeah.
For the rest of the year, they're stuck in Victoria, whereas all the other teams, they have to travel.
Oh, 100%. It's going to be a really big game at the MCG in prelim week against the Giants or the Lions, but we'll get on that in a sec. But well done to the Catters. Really good game. So we'll move on now. Gordo, Sydney and Giants, what happened?
So we had the Swans on Saturday afternoon. Now, what a match. If any of you experienced this, you'd know how good it was. We had the Swans get up by 6 points after being 20 points down in the last quarter. The Giants were tough. Sam Taylor and Whitfield, unreal down back. Callaghan had 25 disposals. He sort of just sliced the footy through the midfield like he has done all year. No one went to him. He just thought, Giants are going to win this. Cal Ward, his snap from the boundary, 7 minutes to go on the clock.
That was clutch.
That was absolutely clutch. And I thought that was it. Giants are through. But no. One man.
Isaac Heaney.
Wasn't he unreal? First he takes the one-hander, then he takes the hanger, and then that running goal. Not many players in the AFL can do that.
No, I agree. And against Lachie Whitfield, of all people, he's one of the fastest players in the comp. To absolutely nudge him off and 70 metres out, running towards goal.
We talk about skill from players. His ability to create separation with his elbow first. All of a sudden he puts on half a metre, and that's all he needs. Half a metre, he runs in.
And even Papley, with the Marty goal at the end, you'll touch on, but that was amazing, Tom Papley's performance, I thought.
Yeah, it was unreal from the Swans, and didn't the fans love it? The SCG looked like it was buzzing. Such a great turnout from them as well. I thought the footy was unreal Saturday afternoon. And I also thought Sydney thoroughly deserved that win too. They fought all game to stay in it. The Giants were amazing for 3 quarters, but we know in finals you've got to play 4 quarters of footy to win. Yeah,
100%. And I thought Giants had it nearly 30 points up in that third quarter, weren't they?
Yeah, that's it. It looked like the game was close to being done, but you're never going to get that with Sydney.
No.
They're never going to give up.
No.
Like we spoke about last week, it's a run on. They get a bit of momentum. It's very hard to stop with the 6-6-6. So I think it's great to see from.
We should also note Braden Campbell's game in the last quarter, especially. What a game! 9 possessions, but it was all influential. And also Chad Warner, they were just unstoppable, that Sydney midfield, and Giants just couldn't win those key moments. And Toby Green in particular, I thought he needed to take some big moments, slot the goals, and wasn't able to. And that was the difference, wasn't it? Tom Papley could. During the week, I saw this in a footy show. Tom Papley was able to do it. Toby Green wasn't.
That's it, yeah. Such a big difference when your smalls are kicking goal.
Yeah, 100% agree. All right, we'll move on to the next game. So we have Friday night. It was the Bulldogs and the Hawks. Hawthorn sounding winners here by 37 points at the MCG. What a game it was. 3 players in particular I want to mention. John Newcomb, Cal Shadir and Nick Watson, I thought were the best 3 players on the ground. 7 goals between Deer and Watson, and then 35 possessions from Newcomb. What a trio of players. I thought Hawthorn in particular, their run and carry out of the centre to get it to them forwards, Deer and Watson, was unbelievable. And to allow so much marking in the inside 50 was poor by Bulldogs. I thought the amount of space Hawthorn were allowed in that forward line was just completely unacceptable. And to not respond in a way in that second half in particular, to go inside 50, was really underwhelming by the Bulldogs, I thought, Gordo.
Yeah, we spoke about this again in week 1 of our finals video, just Hawthorn's ability to use the big grounds and use space. I thought it was clearly evident against the Dogs' backline. The Hawks had way too much space in there, and it just allows their smalls like Ginnivan and Watson to go to work. But also Deer, so much room to move into. That goal that he kicked from the boundary, what a great set shot. Yeah,
that lifted Hawthorn a lot. And I thought also their backline was solid. The likes of Frost, unfortunately he's down with injury this week, but what a game in particular. Who else? We have in the back line, it was Jack Scrimshaw as well. He was unbelievable, I thought, at stages, and the ability to go into the centre where needed and get that ball out of the back line was very solid from him. And also in that midfield, you have the likes of Dylan Moore and James Warple, these contested beasts as well. It was just unbelievable to watch. Their run and carry, and Sam Mitchell knows how they want to play, and that they're able to execute it under immense pressure.
Yeah, it was disappointing from the Dogs that they couldn't stand up in such a big final with such a great list of players. You really did expect more. So Bevo had some comments about not knowing how many minutes Bont had played for the game. You can't have your best player starting centre half forward. He needs to be in there winning the footy.
He was well held though. I will say he was well held by Hawthorn. They had a plan for him and they executed it very well. He was really well held, and I thought it was due to Hawthorn's pressure in the end. The inside 50 count to get Bulldogs under 40 inside 50s for the match was unbelievable effort as well. Just shows the midfield's so powerful.
Yeah, you're not going to win many games when there's only 40 inside 50s. Yeah. I know you spoke about Jai Newcomb earlier, but that goal that he kicked from 45 metres out, been insane about goals tonight.
And Lloyd Mead, that tap and then from the stoppage in boundary throw in, it was just unbelievable. Their character and their ability to know where teammates are. It just shows you what coaching can do, Gordo. Yeah,
for sure. He's a great coach, Sam Mitchell, and it's up to the Hawks. How far can they go in September? I'd love to know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that one as well.
Yeah.
I think they can go pretty close to all the way. Although Port Adelaide stand in the way this weekend.
Yeah, we'll find out our tips later. So we'll move on though to the next game. So we have the Brisbane Lions against Carlton. What happened, Gordo?
Yeah, well, Brisbane were dominant in that first half, weren't they? 60 points to 0. And you just looked at the TV and had to look at it again. They were far too far ahead for Carlton to claw it back in the second half, despite a valiant effort from the Blues. Thought it was a great effort to come back, but geez, you can't give up a 60-point advantage in the first half. You're not going to win many games like that.
And can I just mention one player in particular, Dane Zorko? What a game. He was unbelievable across half-back, just getting the ball into the centre or the wings and just giving his teammates first use constantly after each quarter. It was just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the best halfbacks in the game. The change of direction kicks, the short 20-metre kicks, just to create
precision,
extra room. It is precision. And from 35-year-old player, it's what you expect, those skills. But geez, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's nearly 35, I think, 34. But he's very precise. 100%, and the accuracy, he's just unbelievable in the contest. So watch out, GWS. That's one to watch in the coming weeks.
That's it. I mean, GWS, they've got their own fair share of kickers as well. Lockie Whitfield going to be an absolute star this weekend, I reckon. Anyway, back to the Brisbane versus Carlton on Saturday. The Blues just failed to win the footy when it mattered. I thought their smalls were really, really disappointing down forward. Although
just
Mackay
went missing,
was getting
didn't
the ground, that's it. Mackay was getting the ball to ground, and you just Durden, Jesse Motlop, and Zach Williams, they just weren't at his feet enough to pick up the footy. There was just a bit of a lack of fight, and you saw in the first 3 finals, if you don't put in the fight in the first half of the game, you're not going to be any chance at winning the game. You got to play 4 quarters of footy, and Carlton turned up and they played maybe 2.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. They just didn't have the class to be able to run with Brisbane in that first half when it mattered most.
Yeah.
That's when it matters most. In that first quarter, you need to bring the heat, first 10, 15 minutes a game, and they just weren't able to. And you'll touch on in a sec about the ruck. What happened?
We had Tom De Koning, one of your most influential players. I know you've got Cripps, Mackay, Kerno is missing, obviously. Yeah. You take a risk by putting De Koning in the ruck. But surely if he can come on and play maybe half a game, maybe he can play a full game. Even if he does have to run a bit less and be a bit more conservative in that first half, at least he's going to give a bit of a fight. Just would have been unreal to see him start out and maybe choose someone else's sub. I thought Matt Kennedy was really unlucky to get subbed out. Maybe he should explore elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe. That's for the trade period to find out. But really classy win by Brisbane. They executed what they wanted to do at home and got the job done. Chris Fagan will be very happy with that performance. And just to mention, I think Brisbane midfield, their class with Neil in particular, Dunkley, these types, it's going to be really challenging for Giants in the coming week. We will find out how they go, but they're primed for this semi-final, I think. They're going to throw everything at GWS, and it will be very interesting.
It will be, yeah. And I know I was quite critical on Carlton throughout that, and didn't really give enough attention towards Brisbane. I thought their mids were really classy. I thought
Yeah.
Rayner down forward was really influential. Like he certainly has that ability to take the game away from a team just by kicking 2 or 3 goals.
100%.
Ashcroft was awesome as well. Lots and lots of kicks. He looked really clean with the footy. Just really good to watch.
So a 28-point win to Brisbane probably underwhelms Carlton a little bit by how dominant Brisbane were, but that's what happens in elimination final. It ebbs and flows, and Brisbane got the chocolates. So we'll move on now to the semi-finals. Here we go, Gordo. Friday night, we've got Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval. What are your first thoughts? It's an amazing game, this one, it looks.
Yeah, what a great matchup, Port versus Hawks. You've got one team who desperately needs to win and another team who is on the way up and could do absolutely anything in September.
Yeah.
It'd be a great one to watch.
Yeah, 100% agree. That Hawthorn's ability to fight through every team they've gotten through so far is unbelievable in the second half of the year. Their ability to, outclass teams when it comes to the fourth, third quarters, and the ability to just power with speed and run through the middles, outstanding. So key players I want to have a look at in this game: Connor Rozee for Port Adelaide, and for Hawthorn, Lloyd Meek. I think the ruckman and this captain of Port Adelaide are 2 key players. So we'll start with Rozee. I think he needs to have a big game due to last week not performing to his standard. I thought he needs to be able to fight through that defence of Hawthorn's midfield and get the ball into the inside 50 as quick as he can. And for Lloyd Meek, back it up. 2 weeks in a row, you can do it. In that midfield, to get it to Newcombe, to Warple, these types of midfielders, you need to be able to show that strength in the ruck against Sweet, and I think you can do it, but it just depends your training during the week and whether you can back it up. I also want to mention Port Adelaide's ability to have contested marking and their ability to get the ball out of the middle. They need to show that in this semi-final, because we saw it for majority of the year and they failed last week, but the likes of Horne-Francis and Rozee and Butters need to be able to fight through this Hawthorn midfield to get the job done.
Yeah, it's simply they just have to win this one, you feel. They've been a great team all year, and Ken Hinkley is a really good coach. And I just think that game against Geelong was just a dirty night, a one-off. Can they turn it around and beat Hawthorn? You saw them do it earlier this year. It took right down to the last 30 seconds to get the win against the Hawks, but you never know. I think this week they just need to really stand up, and it starts with those mids, like you said. It starts with Horne-Francis, Rozee and Butters. They've got to get the job done early, and Dixon, you expect a better performance from him, although maybe they bring in Todd Marshall. Yeah,
Todd Marshall could be an option. That's what I was going to mention. You need to be able to have contested marking in the forward line, and Dixon wasn't able to do it. So do you go the different option? It's a good question for Port Adelaide to ask. In the back line, you need to have Cirque Thatcher and Aaliyah playing much better. You need to be able to bring that ball to ground or outmark the Hawthorn forwards. It'll be really fascinating with Hawthorn's momentum. It's going to be very hard for Port Adelaide as well. So it's a really good matchup. I'm really keen also to see Hawthorn's small forwards back it up. Ginnivan, Watson, they need to be able to stand up under the pressure at Adelaide Oval. It's going to be fascinating. They nearly got the job done earlier in the year, but Port Adelaide were able to fight back and win that time. Can they do it again? I think it's going to be a much closer game than last week for Port Adelaide, but we'll see what happens. So, Gordo, we'll get into the tips now for this game. Port Adelaide Hawthorn, who are you tipping?
Well, like we said before, you got one team with huge momentum and one team fighting really hard to stay in this final series. I just thought Port deserved the double chance, so they've got another home final. Surely they can't stuff it up twice in a row. I'm going to tip them this week. Although I'd love to see Hawthorn win, I just think Port get the job done. I'm going to tip them by 30 points as well. It's going to be comfortable in the end. Might be a bit controversial, but yeah, I believe that Port will win by around 30 points.
Very good, Gordo. Well, I'm sticking with Port 2 in a nail-biter by 2 points. I think it's going to be neck and neck all game. Ken's going to get his boys up for a massive game. There's going to be relentless pressure from the first bounce, and Hawthorn won't know where the pressure came from. I think Port Adelaide's going to get on a fly for the first quarter, and they'll be leading by about 25 points at quarter time. Hawthorn will claw their way back the whole game and just fail. I think Port Adelaide by 2 points, but Hawthorn could easily run with this game by 50, 60 points, but I don't think it will happen. Could happen, but personally don't think so. We will find out though Friday night.
That's it, yeah. It is so easy to tip the team who has just won their first final in the elimination game, and so easy to tip against the guy who's missed out, I guess, on winning their first match. But yeah, Port, better team all year. Just feel like they can get it done this week.
Alright, we'll move on to the next game. So we've got the Giants against the Lions at Giants Stadium, Gordo. It's the massive semi-final clash here. What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, we see the Giants rewarded with another home final after finishing inside the top 4. Brisbane are forced to travel for the first time this final series. Last time they met in Brisbane, the Giants actually stole the game in the last quarter. We saw a comeback win by 18 points. Brisbane were extremely wasteful that day, as they have been for the majority of the end of this season.
They should have had it sewn up at quarter time, but they just weren't able to impact on the scoreboard.
Yeah, you can't be kicking 8 goals 16 in a game and expecting to win it. Giants kicked 13 goals 4 and were able to snatch that one. If the Giants bring the same pressure and desire to move the ball through the middle as they did in their first final versus Sydney, I just feel like Brisbane aren't going to be good enough to be able to match it. I saw Callahan, like I mentioned before, had 25 disposals. That man, if he gets loose...
Solid game.
Absolutely. He's got the ability to sort of slice through those defences.
Yeah.
Players like Lachie Whitfield down back. It all starts for the Giants down back, and they build in a wave going forwards.
The orange tsunami.
That's it. You just feel like Giants are a team absolutely built for finals in these matches. I'm looking at key players such as Tom Green. He came out and said he is the best player in the AFL, or he wants to be the best player in the AFL. I think this is a great opportunity for him to stand up and show that he is. You mentioned before we had Toby Green. Toby Green had a bad night versus Sydney. Now he gets another opportunity to take his chances and get the Giants through to a prelim.
Yeah, very much agree with you, Gordo. 2 players really need to look at for Brisbane. If they're any chance to win this game, they need to have under at least 20 possessions for Green, and also Toby Green needs to have minimum 2 goals, alright? So I think if they can get above that, both Greens, above 20 and above 2 goals, probably Giants win this.
Yeah, that's it. Brisbane, though, a great chance. Like you saw Cam Rayner have a great game in his first final. If he can repeat that performance, kick 3 or 4 goals, he's a great chance of snatching this one away from the Giants and being the influencing factor.
Yeah, I think that's Brisbane's key player, Cam Rayner. If he can turn it on at Giants Stadium, they probably win this game. And also, I'd like to mention Lachie Neale and Josh Dunkley. They need to back it up against Giants. If they're any chance to win this game, they need to be able to work together in the midfield and get at least 40 possessions between them. Alright, I'll get a tip, Gordo. So, who you picking for this one? Giants versus Lions.
I've got Giants by 2 goals in this one. 12 points. I think they're a good chance of winning. I just think that Brisbane, although they played a great first half versus Carlton, they didn't show enough in the second half. Maybe they were a bit conservative. You just don't know. Maybe they were saving themselves to come out firing in this one. But I think the Giants, they are a great team. Unlucky to lose to Sydney after not playing those 4 quarters of footy. And I think we'll see in the prelim, it'll be the Giants versus the Cats at the MCG.
Very good, Gordo. So I'm going with Giants as well, but in extra time it's going to be a draw at that final siren after the 4th quarter. It's going to be neck and neck all game. I can't see this being a blowout either way. It's just going to be right cutthroat, semi-final, contested. It won't be going out to the wings much. It will be all inside the square most of the game, I reckon. You're going to see ebbs and flows, but it won't go past 20-30 points, I believe. I think Giants have just got that Jesse Hogan up forward. He's going to be able to kick enough goals to win in that extra time period, as well as inside the main game, to be able to lift Giants to the prelim against the Cats. So we'll see what happens, but it will be a cracking game.
Trust you to be tipping extra time in the final. Semi-finals are the best games. You got two really good teams, one going either way. You never know what's going to happen.
Nah, 100%. Alright, we'll finish up today with our premiership favourites. Who have we got now? Are we changing our tip, or we're sticking to the same?
I think I tipped Sydney last week to win the premiership. I still think they're in the box seat, best team all year. They win that comeback final versus the Giants, and now they're through to another home prelim. If they can get any kind of crowd versus Hawthorn or Port, same as what they did against the Giants, it's going to be real tough for that other team to beat Sydney in that prelim.
Yeah.
I think they're straight through the granny, and whoever they come up against, it's going to be a cracking grand final. So yeah, sticking with this one.
Yeah, well, I'm sticking with the Giants for this week, but if they knock out, of course, that will change next week. But I feel as though if they can get through this week, the momentum will hold them in good stead for the MCG next week, and come to grand final day, they're going to power that team. So, but you have to get through Brisbane, and that's what we'll be focusing on this week. But Giants, I'm sticking with.
Very good. Well, that brings us to the end of semi-final week, Rem and Gordo 2024. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you tune in again next week for our full preview and a recap of semi-final week. Enjoy the footy.
Cheers, everyone.